So the 2024 season is officially over, and the 2025 season will begin in about 10 days when July kicks off. So I wanted to do a full recap of my season for you guys, and I want to talk about the championship points I earned, the tournaments I played, my reflections on the season as a whole, and how much money I spent, how much I earned with full transparency. And I'll talk a little bit about how I spent either a little or a lot, or like what happened there. So it'll be a fun video for you guys to watch if you are interested in the financials of what a, I guess, competitive Pokemon player does, because I think compared to other people, I have probably traveled to more tournaments than a lot of other people. So this is a different metric for you guys to measure things by, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch. So if you guys enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. I appreciate that a ton. If you have any questions about credit card points, how I travel, where I'm traveling from, all that kind of good stuff, please leave them in the comments below. I will do my best to answer them, because I do love talking about the travel aspect of things. I think it's a very interesting subject, and I think it's like an intricate topic to just like cover in general. So first I'll kick off with just the tournaments I played on the season and kind of my reflections. I played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I played 10 league challenges here on the season, and out of the 10, I ended up winning 5 of my 6, with a second place at the other. As you can see, I tried to front load my league challenges as much as possible because the BFL was pretty wide for the year. And I felt like league challenges are probably going to be one of the few things that I don't really have a ton of time for later in the year. And I knew that like I had some obligations as the year moved on. Like I knew I was going to India with my family for a month in December. So I knew that that month would be kind of off the table for local tournaments. I knew that once regionals picked up, I would probably just not want to go to as many small tournaments as possible. So like, as you can see here, I played 2 tournaments before Worlds, just whatever I wanted to do. Labyrinth is, I just played Reggie's because it was a fun tournament to play for me. I didn't really take it too seriously. I think Gaming Giant was right after NAIC, I want to say, like probably like the weekend after. So I just brought the deck that I played to NAIC, didn't really think too much about it. And then if you can see, there's a pretty big gap there where I didn't play anything until September when I got back from Worlds. And I played like a couple here and there, a handful of challenges where I could. And then in October, I made a push to try to go to as many as I could in that stretch. And I intentionally drove a little bit further to weekday ones on purpose because I felt like people wouldn't really go to ones on weekdays, and I have the liberty from my job to kind of leave a little bit early or drive a little bit further if I need to. And some of my weekday ones, like the Guild, for example, it's like a 20-minute drive from my house, and it starts at 6. So if I can just get off the clock by 5 and just head over there for registration, I was able to do that. And some of these stores can't hold more than like 24 players. So going to those weekday challenges where I'm working smarter, not harder, is better for me because obviously if I like lose a round or two, I can just leave early and go home. Gaming Giant, the only reason I stuck around for the last round was because I lost round 4 out of 5. And so I was like, I'll just play the last one for store credit potentially, because I'm already here, right? Like if I lost like round 2, for example, when I needed to win to get any more points at this point, I probably would have just gone home, all things considered. But challenges are, I try to minimize the time I spend at challenges because they're a best of 1. And I feel like challenges aren't really the most rewarding. And you don't have top cut or anything. So it's just like whatever happens, happens. And you can see some of my deck choices here are like pretty all in here, where I played like stuff, like I played a lot of Mew because Mew just has the potential to go like Path Judge or stick people. So my logic going into like best of 1 league challenges a lot of the time was just playing stuff that is aggressive and doesn't have a ton of answers. Obviously, you can try to gauge your local meta. Like I think I tried to game plan with Urshi at one of mine. It just ended up backfiring really hard for me. And then I did the Miraidon Peony one, anticipating less Zard in my local area, and I hit like one of the few Zard guys who absolutely bodied me. So it happens, but yeah, like you can just play whatever you want at challenges, honestly, and it's just kind of like keep throwing curveballs at people, and if they come ready for you, they come ready for you. But if they don't, they don't. Like challenges they get easier as the year goes on. People go to less and less, and the competition isn't nearly as stiff at challenges. Cups is where I left a lot more points on the table. As you can see, there's some quick math, 15, 31. About 15 cups on the season, which is a lot, and cups are a little bit more expensive. I tried to take more time to go to these cups and play them. Obviously, winning 6 cups is pretty huge if you can get there. I did not. I ended up actually leaving quite a few points on the table here. I had 3 wins, 2 seconds, and a top 4 as my best placements. So I left 38 points on the table, which winning 6 cups is difficult by any means, any standard. Like, obviously, I probably could have done a little bit more to go to these cups. I probably could have been a lot less lazy, but obviously, hindsight's 2020. I needed a break period at some point, and that just kind of came where it was. I played 1 cup as soon as the season kicked off. I think this was an early cup, and someone was driving pretty far. Like House of Cards, I think is like a 3 hour drive for me, but someone in my local area was going, and they offered me a ride, so I hitched along. And then I remember vividly, like there was a couple more cups in July that I just chose not to go to. Um, and then there was Worlds, and so I was gone for in Japan for 3 weeks, and so I missed a couple of cups that were happening in that period. I remember like a couple of my locals actually like sitting atop the leaderboard because they were just popping off at cups. But I ended up missing like the entirety of the first cup period almost, and then I came back. Had a pretty good cup weekend here, as you can see, September 16th, 17th, where I played Fusion Mew into Lugia. I think this was right after Pittsburgh, I want to say. So I had just like had a couple of decks built from Pittsburgh, and Fusion Mew and Lugia were the top two decks I was going to play at Pittsburgh, and I played Lugia and top eighted, so I was able to take those and just run with them. And then the weekend after, I had another cup, and I was able to get second there as well, so a pretty strong start to the season. Here's where I started playing some decks that I just wanted to try out, which it's a bad habit of mine where like when we get to cups, a lot of the time I use them as practice, or like rather than playing certain decks on live, I think that a deck is good enough to take to a tournament, but I'm not like convinced it's good enough to take to a regionals. So I'll have the itch to take it to a cup. And obviously things works when your competition is a little bit less stiff in your area, but I have a lot of like worlds level competitors in my area. I'm in Northern Virginia. So I end up hitting like the Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland cups, and the scene is very tough here. Like every cup I have to run into like John Eng, Michael Bergerac, Will Jenkins, Dean Nizam, Gwen, like a lot of these like top players who have Liam Halliburton, like that have proven themselves at the top level time and time again. So sometimes I kind of get punished, and this is one of those instances where I took Arceus Charizard to the cup and I ended up absolutely getting bodied by John in the finals, who was just playing Tina. And I knew he was playing Tina, so like not much I could do. The following weekend, it looks like I just took Lugia, ran it back. And then October was, I think, a month where we had a couple of regionals. So I was, just going here and there. Played Lugia again, didn't do great. And then November was, I think it was Cup, and then we had IC regionals. I want to say was the pattern. So I went to Cup. I won a Cup at Gaming Giant with Galadzard, which was like an interesting pick on my own part. And I kind of got lucky pretty much to win the games I did, but I thought this deck was actually broken. I wanted to try it out for the end of the format. Again, end of the format, didn't really care too much. I was like, I already have a cup win in 2 seconds and a top 4. Like, my finishes are already really good. Like, I can play whatever I want. I have more cups in the future. Bad attitude on my part. But if I'm not having fun playing Pokemon, what am I doing, right? Like, my biggest incentive to go to locals and play is to play a deck that I want to play and have fun with it. So that's my logic behind playing these weird decks that I do. And then I went to Sage Mantis, ended up losing in top 8, headed home. I remember vividly, like I had a bad like top 4 matchup anyway, so it didn't matter. But then this loss actually, had I won the cup, I would have been in top 4 for stipend for the next quarter, which was pretty unfortunate in my part. Or I think I had to make finals. If I made finals, I would have gotten it too. But I don't think I was going to beat the Zard that was there because I didn't play any Zard techs. I think I teched from right on that day. And then I played one cup at Dream Wizards, and this was my first flirt with Roaring Moon because I thought this deck was going to be really good. And then you see like a gigantic gap here, where like December I was gone the entire month with family, and then January and early February there was a lot of regionals, and I played like pretty much every weekend on and off, which I think was a mistake on my part because I burned myself out completely. So then I just started playing like bad decks on purpose to give myself a reason to fail. And so I went to Pair of Dice, I played Iron Valiant, like all these like next like 3 cups. The only reason I went to them is because they were like less than like a 20-minute drive from me, like let's say 30 minutes tops. And I think that's a reasonable distance to go. And I wanted to see my friends, like the local guys I haven't seen now in like 3 months, and I want to go grab like a bite with them, hang out with them, chat with them, see how life is going. And so I go to Paradise, I play Valiant, get absolutely shit on, go get food, get home. I go to Fantastic Store, I end up playing Colorless Lugia, which is not even a real deck. I end up getting a favorable matchup in top 4 into Tina, and I end up getting path bricked games 1 and 3, which was funny because I just made a meta call. I thought it was a good deck. It didn't work out. And the next day I took my chance at Stall. I should not have taken my chance at Stall. It did not work out the way I wanted it to. And then I took another month break. And here was the end of the format. We were going into EYC testing. I had kind of locked back in. I was only doing EYC testing, so I didn't really know what I wanted to play for locals. And I just decided that Miraidon Peony is like less thinking, more aggressive. And if people are playing decks like Gardevoir at the end of the format, or people playing like Lost Box stuff at the end of the format, I think Peony Miraidon had like a pretty good shot into just like running away with games pretty easily, especially in BL1. So I was able to win the first cup, and I think the second cup I had like a pretty bad series. Like I just had like bad hands. Like Miraidon doesn't have a lot of control over itself, so I had the good and the ugly set of Miraidon in the same weekend. and I got like completely knocked out. On the second day, I went home early, and then there was another big gap where cups weren't really happening, and then this is where like I kind of goofed on the season, where I had a lot of life stuff come up, not regionals in particular or tournaments in particular, but I was doing like family weddings, spending some time with my family, my sister's graduation, stuff of this nature, which just ate up a lot more weekends than I thought that would. So I had like what I would have had like another 6 or 7 cups ended up becoming just one individual day of a double cup weekend. And had I made top four at the first cup, I would not have been able to make it the second cup here, because I think the first cup started at 10 a.m. and the second cup started at 3:30, and they were about 30 minutes apart. I think this also was a product of everyone having to finish their cups before June hit. So April, May being the only 2 months for cups meant that there was going to be obviously overlaps in the schedule for some stores. And so I ended up going to the first cup, went 3-2, and I dipped, getting fifth. I like threw my fifth round. I knew I lost. I started 3-0 and went 3-2, which is like on me completely. And then I went to the next cup where I made top four, and then I lost to someone who did, I think, need to win 2 cups to get their invite. Hopefully he got there. But that ended up the end of my season on cups. Like I have regrets about cups that I did what I did. And I'll show you guys the cost breakdown. This was like a very expensive endeavor that I don't think paid off the way I wanted it to pay off. So yeah. And then here we have the most disappointing part of my season, which is regionals. I played in 10 regionals, I believe. Or no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wait, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I played 13 regionals, which is an absurd amount considering that there was 12 in the U.S. this year, and I did not even play all 12 of the U.S. regionals. I ended up playing, or North America, sorry. I played 1, 2, 3, 4 outside of North America, in particular, which I did those on purpose just because I wanted to get new experiences for places I have not been yet. And the 3 US regionals I think I missed were all in a position where something else was, like I think Perth was the one where I chose Australia actively over Orlando, but the other 2 I had some sort of obligation or family event that I had to get to, and I was not going to, like one of them was a friend's wedding, and I was not going to miss my friend's wedding to go to like Indianapolis regionals, for example. But the season kicked off strong. I remember Pittsburgh was a short drive for me, and I remember coming back from Worlds and thinking if this was not the same weekend, like if Pittsburgh was not a drive for me, I probably wouldn't have gone because I was just so burnt out from Worlds, and I had given my all of this World Championships. I thought that like this was the one that was going to go well. I prepared very well, and when it didn't go my way, obviously I'm going to be heartbroken, right? Like it's not the easiest thing to recover from, and so I went to this tournament and I just showed up and I was like, I really think Lugia is the correct play. Somebody give me a Lugia list. I'll play the same 60. And Reagan's like, here's the list. And so we locked it in. We played it. Top 8 it. Got super lucky. I'm not going to lie about it. Peoria showed up. I thought PAL was the play. We built a PAL list. I played it. Top 32. Can't complain. Sacramento, I thought DTEMU was the play. The rest of the group was playing Lost Box, I believe. So I locked in DTEMU. And this is where my season, I think I made the correct call. Like I was changing my mindset as a player to play for winning as opposed to playing for 6-2-1 into like the best outcome on day 2. And I chose to play by round 9, and I lost. I was a Zard. I probably should have taken the ID, but I played it. I was like a turn off of winning in 2 different games. My opponent just drew very well, and they were able to beat me. Happens, right? Punished. Then I go to Canada, where I once again was like, let's play Lugia. I think it's correct. Did well. Poland, I picked Urshi again. I thought Urshi was the broken deck. And I probably win the tournament if I don't hit the block lax in round 13. Or 14, sorry, round 14. If I don't have block lax, I pretty much have a free path through the rest of the tournament, which is unfortunate, but it happens, right? And the block lax won the tournament, so he actually made a better call than I did by a slight margin. And then this is where I think my season derailed a little bit because I went to India for a month with my family. And when I came back, I didn't take the proper steps to recover. I think I landed like January 3rd, and I flew to Portland the next day. So I was absurdly jet lagged, and the way that my mom had like planned out our trip left very little room for like breaks. So we had done a lot of tourism, and as anyone can tell you, time with your family can be pretty exhausting in a different way. And so it was kind of just like a lot of mental stress for me on this trip with my family. And I came home and I didn't really have a chance to recover the way I should have recovered. And I went to Portland, and I just remember like halfway through the day, I was like falling asleep. I couldn't focus. I was making like super silly mistakes, and just like playing really, really bad. And like I had no excuse to like finish the way I did, but I just shouldn't have gone to Portland. And then 2 weeks later, I went to Charlotte, where I thought Moon was the correct play. And I think, for what it's worth, I think Moon was still the correct play as a deck. I just didn't really care about the weekend because it was my birthday weekend and I wanted to like spend more time with people. At this point, I had like kind of checked out of Pokemon, which is like a really sad thing to say because like I've been playing all season. But I basically was like, I don't really care what happens. I just want to hang out with people. But obviously, I do care at the end of the day how I do. And so at this point, this goes badly. And then I go to Knoxville, and the whole group is like, play Tina, play Tina, play Tina. Because now John comes off a win at Portland. Isaiah comes off a top 8 at Charlotte. So why am I not playing Tina? Our group is known for Tina. We're good with the deck. I know how to play the deck. Like, I've watched enough people play it, and I know what I'm doing. And then I make it to day 2, and then the wheels fall completely off, where the deck stops working. The games are just not going in my favor, and I just absolutely get shit on. So whatever. Knoxville ends. Another tournament where I don't feel like my confidence has been boosted back to normal, especially given that I started 7-2 going into day 2, playing round 9 out again. And again, it is what it is. That it ended that way, going 2-4 in day 2. And then we go to Dortmund, where I don't really care. I honestly wanted to cancel this flight. I called. I tried to cancel with the airline, but I booked a non-refundable flight, which is on me. And I end up going, and I play like 0 test games, and I end up playing Gardevoir. And I start pretty solid. So I 3-0, and then I get forced into a 3-0-2 situation. And then I end up going like 3-1-2 to 4-1-2 to 4-2-2. And then I just don't show up to my last round. But I think I made the correct deck call and the correct like list call for this tournament. The problem was just that I just wasn't in it again, so I was making mistakes. I remember this like the most like upset I had been in a long time after a tournament, and like the entirety of day 2, usually I go to the venue, see how people are doing, hang out with them at the very least. But this one, I woke up for day 2 and I just like sat in my hotel room and watched like a whole season of Suits because I just did not want to interact with anyone because I was so burnt out from just people interaction in the last like 5 weeks of tournaments, including like my family as well, like for a month before that. So like I had run myself into the ground at this point, and at this point I should have realized that I needed a break, which is why I took a break, right? And then I go to Vancouver, where I just went to hang out with people again, and I showed up and I told Reagan I'm going to play POW with him, and I locked it in. I didn't have a deck I wanted to play, which is my problem this season. I didn't have a deck I wanted to play. Lock in, played POW, almost made top 32. I basically just like got 2 unlucky matchups here and there. And I think a couple things swinging the other way, I make it to top 32, maybe even top 8, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is, right? Then I did my EUIC trip where I worked really hard on the deck, which I'll get to in the ICs in a second, and the prep behind them. And then I went to Perth right after, where I joined forces with the Australian super team, and they guided me in the right direction with Charizard Pidgeot. Loved working with them, would love to work with them in the future again. And obviously this tournament is much smaller and much less difficult than other ones, but you still have to do well to do well, right? Like you still have to put the top, like your best foot forward and not throw your games. And I did exactly that. And then Stockholm, I locked in Ancient Box with Nico at like the last hour, which had I had a better idea of what I wanted to play, maybe I wouldn't have played Ancient Box, but I thought the deck was correct. And I did well. Like I don't think I did bad, but I didn't do good, obviously. But I think the deck, like I played as well as I could have, and I think the matchups got a little bit other way they go in my favor. But yeah. And then Los Angeles, I just went to hang out with everyone. Didn't really care at this point. I was already looking into NAIC. I played Zard Pidgeot, and I just like let the dice roll basically, and it didn't go in my favor. So as you can tell by my regionals report, half the regionals I probably shouldn't have gone to because I just wasn't there mentally present, and I left 260. Like my season, all things considered, is a pretty embarrassing one because out of 13 regionals, I only cashed 4. Like 4 out of 13 cash is a pathetic rate for someone who you guys expect to be a world class player. Like I don't know, it's pretty embarrassing for my own standards. Like looking back at this, and sure, I got points at a lot of these regionals, but points mean nothing when the kickers go as far as they do now for me. Like 20 points is just whatever, like that's not going to make your season at a regionals, especially. And then internationals, we had 3. Sao Paulo was one where I put a lot of effort in. I put a lot of effort into all 3 ICs, but the biggest problem with my ICs this season, besides any IC, was confidence. I didn't believe in myself as a player and chose to believe in the group as opposed to that. And that ended up being my downfall a lot of the time because for Sao Paulo, I really wanted to play POW. I thought POW was the correct play, but the whole group played DTMU with Excelgor, and I committed to the play. I said, we're all doing it. It's got to be good for a reason. And I think the deck wasn't that bad, honestly. Like we just did not call the Gardevoir metagame correctly, and Gardevoir absolutely kind of steamrolled the tournament. And then for London, I once again wanted to play POW really, really badly, and then Giratina Bennett made its appearance. And I thought the deck was actually really good. I just had some unfortunate matchups. But if this deck had not come up, I would have played POW almost certainly. But Tina Bennett being the deck it was awesome. It was a cool deck. Can't really complain too much about it, but yeah. And then Gardevoir for New Orleans was my choice by far. I went in wanting to play Gardevoir. I stuck with Gardevoir. I didn't switch my mind up when I got there. I almost did a couple times, but I was pretty upset how it finished. But I think that I played pretty well from that tournament. So sorry about the long spiel. Let's jump into the money. So here is how I broke things down. Obviously, through the entry cost, I didn't separate if things costed money via via like a store credit or something, because like I just like if I get store credit, I just put it in pricing $100, and I'm gonna use it at some point, whether to buy product or sleeves or something. So like it's just an added part of the pool. So you can see here, challenges were roughly between $5 and $15, and then cups were anywhere between $10 to $30, and then regionals were about $70 entry fees. So you can see here the first one of the season, $10 entry fee. I got $40 back in store credit, pretty good. Cup flopped, nothing, but I got a couple of packs. And then I paid gas money because we drove 3 hours. So it was a little bit far, and I did offer to pay gas money, which I think is fair, right? And all these sealed packs I just kind of opened, or the like loose packs I just opened if there was like a sealed box or something, or prize packs I kept them sealed, because I don't know what to do with them, frankly. But I cracked all the loose packs because it's fun. I don't know. Labyrinth challenge, got $70 in store credit. That was actually a pretty insane one. And this is like store is particularly a board game shop as well, so I ended up picking up a couple of board games that I had my eye on for a little bit. So it was a pretty value one for me. $10 entry, walked out with nothing at Fantastic Store. Besides 3 OBF packs. So every store with locals, it's a toss-up sometimes on what you're going to get. Pittsburgh was my first big EV. 120 for the drive. I drove up, so it's pretty easy for me. And parking garages were really the brunt of the cost. My accommodation ended up being 0 because I did stay with a friend who was working the tournament. So I obviously chose to stay with some people who were throughout the season where I didn't have to pay any money out of my own pocket, because I don't really need to be in the same hotel room as all my friends. As long as there's if there's a free hotel room available to me, I will take it. And I don't mind sleeping on like the couch. Like I think I'm very comfortable on the couch. So this is one of those situations where I took a couch bed, and like, you know, if someone's going to be working or staffing or something, I will gladly take your extra bed if you don't mind me being there. $3,000 and obviously 3 booster boxes as well. These are all sealed, and I will hold them until I flip them at some point in my life. Another cup here, $66 in the store credit was pretty good, plus some prize packs. Next cup, this is a pretty insane one. $30 entry is pretty steep. Probably the highest I paid for a cup. I want to say I don't think I paid higher for any other cup, but $180 was my return. I have not used the store credit yet, so I need to use that at some point. A couple prize packs as well in the mix. I don't put the mat down here either, like the mat and like the promos or whatever. Like that's I think a given if you end up winning. Like they just go into my like closet in like a stack of mats, so they just end up going into the void. Another cup here. I think this was a no cash back on this cup. I think this was Chesapeake, was I think top 8 I lost. So I just got some 14 packs was pretty good for $20 entry, I think, all things considered. But losing top 8 was unfortunate. 2 prize packs for this challenge. Another challenge here, $10 entry. I don't think I got anything I didn't place. Player 1 cup, I got $90 in store credit, which is good. I think I was able to pick up some cards. Obviously, some stores are going to charge higher when it comes to cards, individual singles, but using your store credit is always smart, I think. If you don't know what you're going to get, just pick up sleeves, because at some point in your career, you're going to have to use new sleeves for a tournament, and that's my logic as well. Just pick up some sleeves, call it a day, move on with your life. Gains Market was another one where I picked up, I think I won this one, and I got a prize pack in 3 OBF for 15. A little bit of a robbery, but it's okay. Peoria was another one. This one was a little bit difficult to travel to. My flight was $211 to Chicago, and I drove with a friend who lives in Chicago. So you got to do stuff like that sometimes, where like flying directly into Peoria might cost me like $600, but obviously if you have the time, you can fly into something like Chicago and take public transportation, or you can take a friend or someone who's driving through. My accommodation was relatively cheap. Peoria was a city where, I don't know, it wasn't like that expensive. Like all in all, like it was one of those hotels that was just kind of like dirt cheap. And I was like, sick, okay, like a town that's only built by Pokemon. I ended up walking out with another $1,000 in my pocket from top 32 and a booster box. Sacramento was up next. This is the West Coast, so my flight ended up being $436. I want to also mention that all my flights For the most part, I booked through United specifically, and I booked economy over basic economy. So my flights could be like $30, $40 more expensive because I do want to pursue status because status gives me free upgrades and I'm a bigger guy. So not bigger in terms of like weight or anything, but just bigger in terms of I'm 6'3", so I'm a tall dude, and my legs can get cramped on these long flights. So having the ability to automatically upgrade up to economy plus with extended seating is really nice for me. And so I will pay the extra to throughout the year accumulate that status once again. So next year when I fly again, I'll get automatically bumped up to legroom once again, which is really nice on these long flights because if I have a little bit of legroom, I can fall asleep pretty comfortably on these flights. And like a flight like Sacramento, which is like a 6-hour flight, I can knock out for like maybe like 80% of the flight, which is really convenient. Again, pretty cheap hotel. I think we got like a pretty big Airbnb. We had a ton of people. We had like 8 people in this, so it ended up being like super cheap. And a lot of these flights, I'm also just going like Friday night and flying home on Sunday. So it's only 2 nights of hotel, which ends up being pretty inexpensive, all things considered. Another challenge here, I think it was a 10 packs, which is whatever. Another challenge here, $50 store credit, which was pretty nice. I'm pretty sure I lost the text for this, so I just got to make sure they have it for me. I haven't been to the store much recently. Cup there, flopped it. Toronto was up next. I paid $177 for the flight. Toronto was actually pretty close to me. I can actually drive, but I chose to fly because of time. And then this is where I ended up. The hotel was a little bit more expensive because I counted Ubers in this, I believe, back and forth to the venue each day because our hotel was in the city center, and Toronto's like a little bit more of an expensive city, especially at this time of year. And we were there Halloween weekend, so it was like pretty expensive, all things considered. Oh, you guys might also notice that I didn't put any cost for food because I'm someone who, if I'm home, I will more than likely go out with friends on the weekend. Like I don't got like drinking, but like I will certainly be like, hey, let's go get Korean barbecue, or I'll hit up someone and be like, yo, like, do you want to go see a movie or do something? Like, I like to spend time with my friends, and I like to like food is one of the few things in my life that I consider a luxury. And I don't really eat out. Like, I don't spend a lot of money on food at Pokemon tournaments. Like, I pack. Like recently, I've been taking a checked bag with like protein stuff in it. Like I take my protein snacks, protein bars, protein shakes, even. Gum, all that stuff with me. And so basically all I'm buying when I get there is like an energy drink once per day, which I think is like negligible in my opinion. And then like one dinner with the group is like Red Robin, like for example, will be like $15 for a burger and some fries. Like I'm not going to count that. Like if I'm at home on a Sunday, that's like I'm being lazy, I'm going to DoorDash like Chick-fil-A. Not okay, that's a terrible example. Like Chick-fil-A on a Saturday and just like watch TV or something. Like I don't know, like I'm going to enjoy my weekends anyway if I'm home, so I'm not going to count the food that I would be spending out there somewhere. Is by logic, if that makes sense. Then we had another cup coming up. I ended up getting a lot of store credit for winning this one, like a ton. And I remember like using this store credit for like half the season to buy like new cards whenever they came out. And I like to play like semi-max Reddy, so it was like nice to pick up some stuff. Another cup here, 5 packs. I think this was the top 8. This is LAIC. So my ticket ended up being a little bit more expensive. It was $1,177 because I ended up choosing to go. We ended up upgrading last second to premium economy for like $200 more because one of our friends' fathers had plus points that were going to expire. And so what plus points are they're United's way of like upgrading or putting in a bid to upgrade to first class without having to use money. But you have to be like one tier below. So like if you're in regular economy, you can bid up to premium economy. If you're in premium economy, you can bid up to first class. And so he was like, if you guys go ahead and do this, like the night before the flight, I see that the entirety of first class, or like a lot of seats in first class, are completely empty. You guys should do this. And I was like, I've very rarely flown first class in my life before. And it's a 11-hour flight to Sao Paulo, or like 11-hour flight. And we're flying overnight. So I was like, I think it'd be cool to like lie flat and like sleep. So I paid the extra $200 to do this, and I think it was completely worth it. Really, really cool experience. I like have never done something like this before, and I genuinely like was very, very grateful. It was really cool. So yeah, and then my accommodation was also very cheap. Things in Brazil were pretty relatively inexpensive, so I was able to our hotel for like 5 nights was pretty, I think, super, super cheap. And the next up was Gdansk, Poland. My flight was about 822. Again, that's pretty expensive for a Europe flight. I remember it's because I think it was Thanksgiving weekend. I had to end up paying a little bit more than I thought I'd be paying. Um, and I ended up buying like, I think it's because it was a partner airline. I was flying through Lufthansa, I believe, and they don't kind of give you your seats, which was something I didn't know until I booked. Um, that you had to buy seats, so I ended up buying like my seats for like $40 each flight or something, which ended up adding up pretty quickly on the long flights. Um, and so I ended up going to Poland. My accommodation once again was pretty cheap. I stayed in an Airbnb with Nico. It was just the two of us. It was a small Airbnb for the weekend. Not too bad. $2,000 on the rip. Come back with 2 boxes as well. Another cup, and then we had. This is my string of regionals here. And here I'll show my credit card advice. So if you guys don't have a travel credit card and you're playing Pokemon or have bills to pay, you should get a travel credit card because a lot of the time these points are going to add up. And I didn't use a lot of points this season on my own card because I have bills and stuff to pay as well. But these points can be really beneficial. Like I have a friend who is paying for his entire trip to Hawaii on points, just based on bills he's been paying this season, like housing, car, whatever you need to do. Like those bills being paid are going to add up and give you these points. And points are basically just like like free money, in my opinion. It's like cash back that you can use towards any of your hobbies or anything you want to do. So I can go into more depth on credit cards and stuff. I have a couple of videos up already about that as well. I personally think it's a godsend. I'll get to one of my trips coming up here where I use my credit card points. And it'll explain itself when we get there. So Portland coming up next was another one where I ended up paying quite a bit of money because West Coast does end up being a little bit pricier for me. I fly out of one of the 3 DC airports. So $531, pretty steep cost to the West Coast. I ended up booking a hotel, I believe. Yeah, and it was just like, it was again weekend, Friday, Saturday, fly home Sunday on red eye, 176 for a weekend for 2 nights. Seems pretty fine. Obviously, some cities is more expensive than others, but yeah. Charlotte was a pretty cheap flight. Like, this is another drive for me. I just chose not to do it. I could probably get there in like 5 hours. I just didn't want to drive. And then the hotel for this one was a little bit more expensive because I did stay by myself for 2 nights. And I stayed a little bit further because it was my birthday weekend. I just figured I wanted to stay by myself and just chill rather than stay with the company of the group. And so this was not too bad of a price. Knoxville came up next, where pretty cheap flight again. Knoxville again could be a drive. It's like 8 hours, but again, I don't want to drive 8 hours. Like the comfort of sitting on a flight is much easier for me because I don't like driving personally. Never been a big driver, and this is where I stayed with another friend who was working the event, so I was able to stay for free. So cut some costs there, which was super awesome. Dortmund was a pretty cheap flight, all things considered, because I'm going to a different country. Cheaper than my Portland flight, which is kind of insane. And again, this is one of those flights where I did buy like seating again. Like I bought the seats and the space for myself. And yeah, it still ended up being only like $524, which is awesome. Like I was like, cool, sick. Not going to complain. And I ended up paying $408 for the hotel because I ended up staying by myself because I had friends who were going, but they all stayed with like other people, and I kind of like booked it late. So by the time I joined in on the party, I was like left alone. And I went Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I had 4 nights of hotel by myself, and it ended up being pretty expensive, all things considered, actually. Like 408 isn't like a lot, but obviously when you are like somewhere like Germany or Europe, hotels are known to be cheaper. But I think I booked like a pretty nice hotel, a good train distance away, and it was fine. And this was a pretty bad streak of me not cashing 4 tournaments in a row. Another cup, no cash. Another cup here. This one paid out a lot of packs, no cash either. Another cup, bombed it. Another cup, got a challenge, got a little bit of packs, a little bit of store credit. Then we had Vancouver. $392 to Vancouver was pretty cheap, all things considered. I think like going, especially to Vancouver, is a little bit of an expensive flight a lot of the time. But I couldn't complain, and I ended up walking out with 18 packs as well, so not too bad. This hotel I ended up staying with a friend for free. This one was with Reagan, and Reagan's guardian couldn't make it. So they asked if I would like stay in the room with him, and they would just cover my cost because the guardian was obviously like his parents were very obviously wanted him to still go, but if they couldn't have someone stay in the room with him, obviously they wouldn't feel comfortable because he was underage. So I was glad to take the opportunity. Not going to complain, right? Another challenge down the belt. some more cash, some packs here with another cup here. EYC was a little bit pricier, all things considered. This is where the $0 will come into play. Let me explain this in great detail before we get into the final cost and final numbers. So this is where I booked a trip for 100. So with United or anything you book with airline points, they have a cap. At some point, they'll just cap out how much you spend and where you go. So I was looking at the flights and I was like, okay, what if I go Washington, D.C. to London? Cool. London to Washington, D.C., about 60,000 miles. I was like, yeah, it's pretty reasonable. I think $600, like 1,000 miles, $10. What did I say? Something like that, whatever. $600. Not too shabby. Got the flight times I want, everything I want. And then I just like casually was like, what if I go to Perth instead of Orlando? Or what if I just put Orlando in straight from London? And London, so like going DC to London to Orlando to home, because my aunt lives in Orlando, so I can just go stay with her for a week, no biggie. Maybe I stay a couple extra nights in London, explore a little bit, or go to Orlando early, go to my old college stomping grounds, whatever. 80,000, not too bad, right? Okay, cool, sick. That's two regionals covered, a regional IC covered for 80,000. And then I was like, what if I do Perth? What if I add Perth to the equation? I have a lot of vacation time saved up. What if I add Australia? 120,000. I was like, okay, that's a lot less than I thought it would be. And this at this point is now like me going directly from DC to London, London to Perth with a stop, I think, in like either Singapore or Thailand. It was like the two stops, or one of the two places I could stop. Perth directly. So now I'm in Perth, and then the way home I go Perth to either Sydney or Melbourne, and then through either LA or San Francisco, and then home. So then I was like, okay, what if, like, I was like, what do I do in Perth? I looked up, like, what there is to do in Perth if I get there early, because I'd be flying the Monday of UIC, meaning I would get there like Tuesday or Wednesday. What am I going to do on Wednesday and Thursday while I'm in Perth? Perth had nothing to do. So I was like, what if I go to Sydney? Will that add any extra money? Yeah, $29. That's it. That's all it cost. No extra miles. So I was like, yeah, I'll go to Sydney. I'll go hang out in Sydney and do whatever. And I had hotel points, so I used hotel points for hotel rooms in Sydney. Went to Sydney for 2 nights, and then I was like, well, one of my friends just had I have a friend a couple of friends over in San Francisco that I haven't seen in a while. They just bought a house. Wonder how they're doing. Maybe if I fly through San Francisco instead of LA, will it add anything? Nope. Found a perfect flight that gets me to San Francisco. A nice 8 to 10 hour layover. Got to go see them, get some lunch with them, hop back on my plane, head home. And initially I had planned to stay in Indonesia for a full day. An overnight layover where like I land at like 10 p.m. and then my flight the next day is at like 10 p.m. again. So that's like a full like 24 hour layover almost, which is kind of a insane like hack, because like I would get a full day to just hang out in Indonesia. But Isaiah ended up making finals, so I had to change my flight to miss that leg of my flight. But yeah, I ended up booking all that for 120,000 miles and like $29. And I was like, cool, insane. Like I basically got the value of like 4 trips for these points that I'm just sitting on. London, the hotel was pretty inexpensive, all things considered, $297, whatever. And then $1,000 was made back, not on any pricing, but I did get the stipend to go, so I do add that into the equation. Perth was pretty cheap to enter, $29. The flight, I just explained the flight cost. Stayed at a B&B with all the guys, $256 was pretty much the cost of that one. No harm, no foul there. And then we went to $3,000 in the back burn. Chesapeake, another cup here. And Stockholm was a little bit expensive. $733 was my flight. I don't think it was. I think I added my flight and B&B together on accident here, because the flight was like $450, I believe, when I booked it. So I don't know where this extra money came from. I have to assume I just added it to the B&B cost, because I have 0 in the hotel cost, but I know I booked the B&B, so I think I just added these two together. So this one's on me. A little bit of sloppy management on the spreadsheet, but another inexpensive-ish Europe trip, and I ended up going on Thursday, so I was able to go explore a little bit, because it's a country I've never been to, an area I've never been to, and I have a friend who lived there for a little bit of her life, so she gave me some tips and stuff to do. And I just like to explore in this stage of my life because I want to see stuff that's going on. Ended up doing that. It was really cool. Can't complain. A couple cups here. No real pricing for me. A couple of packs. And then Los Angeles was a little bit of a pricey flight with $440, and accommodation was cheap because my Sam Chen, as you guys saw from the vlog, lives about an hour away from Los Angeles. So ended up staying with him. Free hotel basically, so it mitigates the cost of this flight. Was able to hang out with him, have a good time. Then we go to New Orleans. Flight was 306, which is pretty shocking for. It was pretty shocking for New Orleans, which is pretty close, I guess, flight distance. Hotel was pretty expensive, 353. Maybe just because I booked pretty late, or we only had 4 people. I think normally we have like 4 to 5 people, and I booked pretty cheap hotels. But this one just ended up being pretty expensive for some reason. And then Hawaii is burning a hole in my pocket. I booked it already. $965 for my flight, $550 for the hotel as well, because it's just a little bit more expensive flight and hotel because the destination itself is a little bit of a premium. A little bit tough on the wallet for the hotel, but all things considered, it'll be fine. And then I do get a stipend to go as well. So this is my cost. So all in all, my season, I spent about $1,445 on entry fees at tournaments. I spent about $7,253 on travel. I spent about $2,831 on accommodation, and I earned back about $11,831 in pricing, not accounting for any box value because I don't think the box value is a liquid number, or it is a liquid number, sorry, as opposed to a fixed number that I can't really put a quantity on. So if I don't make any more cash in Hawaii, and like this is my season ends here, I don't make anything else, we're done, $0, goose egg, no top 32, I will be $302 positive on the season, which is pretty low, all things considered. But again, I had some flights, like first class flights, Europe flights I didn't have to take. But on the flip side, I had some things I booked with points and miles. Could have booked more on points and miles. A couple of hotels that were a little bit free for me. A couple of hotels that were expensive because I stayed alone. So there is an ebb and flow of things, but I think overall I did pretty much the average of what a player should do if you're going to travel the amount that I'm traveling. And hopefully this was informative to some degree. I don't really know how informative it is to everyone. Maybe it was just like a cool thing for you guys to see. I love talking about this stuff. I'm very transparent with how much I spend on a season. I don't think it's a secret. I don't think it should be a secret. I'm very open to talking about it. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. That was my season recap. And we'll be back next year, and I'll do this whole thing again.